is not a
that will
study
receive
path.
revelation, and as we write it down.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited today because I have a special guest here today with me, my mom, Mary Taylor. And she's wonderful. She's so knowledgeable about the gospel, and today we will be studying 1 Nephi chapter 2. So let's get right started into that. Alright everybody, so today we will be studying in 1 Nephi chapter 2, and that is such a wonderful chapter. I do remember when I had been studying that chapter and I had been going through a lot of hardship in my life, so to set the scene for everybody, it had been about last October and I had had my fair share of trials at that time. I was just focused on what I wanted and upon my will, and through that I did not find any happiness because I was always thinking about myself, and that anger and that selfishness was really causing me to have a rift from Christ. And I remember this one day, I believe it was October 24th, and it references in my blog post that very day actually, when I had been reading 1 Nephi chapter 2, and while reading that I thought in my mind, how can Nephi, someone who had had so many trials put into his life, still be so happy and content and focused on the Lord when he had to give up everything in his life and follow the Lord? And I thought, how can me, a person that has so many things and so many blessings, still feel so empty inside? Yeah, as I was reading that, I wondered, how come Nephi was so focused on the Lord and his brothers Laman and Lemuel always were murmuring and upset, and they both had the same circumstances, but yet one of them was so happy and felt so overcome with the Spirit and with the love of the Lord, while the other two always saw the negative in every situation. And that brought things to my own life. And I had been talking about my mom, actually, I had been talking to her about this very thing as I was writing my blog post, because she always has so many insights, and I remember her telling me at that time about their desires, and she can say more about that because she says it in a lot better way than I do.
So in this chapter it talks about Laman and Lemuel, that they murmured against their father, and they knew not the dealings of God who had created them. And I found that interesting, that they didn't understand the dealings of God when yet they had seen so many miracles in their life. But one thing that hit me when I read verse 16 is it says, talking about Nephi, he was exceedingly young, nevertheless being large in stature and having great desires to know the mysteries of God. Wherefore he cried unto the Lord, and behold, he did visit me and soften my heart, and I believed all the words which had been spoken by my father. And I think that's the difference, is that Nephi, he had a desire to want to know the Lord. He had a desire to follow the Lord, and even if it was difficult, he still, even through challenges, instead of blaming God, he decided to believe God and follow the promptings. And so because of that, it's just like President Nelson, as he's talked to us recently about receiving revelation, that we can grow in the principle of revelation. The more that we seek revelation, the more that we'll receive revelation, and as we write it down, we'll continue in that principle and grow and receive more revelation. I think this is what Nephi is experiencing. He is able to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord softened his heart and revealed more knowledge unto him. And that's the blessings of we receive through the power of the priesthood, is knowing the mysteries of God. We learn through the Melchizedek priesthood that we can know the mysteries of God. And this is exactly what Nephi is experiencing, is that power that he has access to in his life, just like we do as women have access to that power in our lives. And it's equal access, men and women, and that's an amazing blessing that we have.
Yes, I love what you just really said. That is so true. President Nelson is such an important prophet to me because he says so many things that are just so focused on the Lord, and he talks and presents things, and I can just feel how much love he has for us through the Lord. And he also said, that our happiness does not come from our circumstances, but through our focus. And that is the difference between Nephi and Laman and Lemuel, is because Nephi, as my mom said, was focused on the Lord. He sought after doing righteousness, and because of that, he was not troubled in his circumstances. Whereas Laman and Lemuel were always focused on what they didn't have. And when we're always focused on what we don't have, then it blinds us to be able to see all the things that the Lord has done for us. And
You know what that's like recently, huh, Sarah? As we all go through different trials in our lives, as I understand myself in my life, we all have times that it goes up and down, and we're able
life
to.
is not a steady path. It's always up, and you think that finally things are going to be happy for me, but lo and behold, there's going to be another downward fall. And it is in those times of trial that we can choose to be prideful and seek after the desires of our own hearts, or we can choose to be humble and turn to the Lord, and through Him, He will sanctify us in those trials and help us to be able to become the people that He needs us to be. And when we go traveling up a hill, a trial, we will eventually make it to the top, and we'll be able to, at the end, look back and see the person that we have become. So I was reading the scriptures, and I wrote a blog post at that time focusing on my experiences at that time. And as I was writing that blog post, I felt that the Lord was impressing things upon my own mind that really helped me. Because many times when I'm writing my blog post or making these kind of videos, it's almost like the Lord is teaching me in that process. And He definitely did, as He gave me the insight for this very last few paragraphs, which my mom will read for you guys now.
I thought you were going to read it.
You think I'm going to read it? I don't know on the phone.
Yes.
No,
You're absolute queens. That's the one you were going to read, I thought.
No, just read the last few paragraphs.
I'm not doing very well at my job. So, as Sarah says, we have things that stand in the way of us and God, and one of those is pride. I challenge you to examine how humble your heart is. Find ways in which you are putting your own judgment above the Lord. Go to God with a broken heart and ask Him in ways you can change, and over time make those changes. You are absolute queens, so keep your head aimed toward heaven, or your crown will fall. But if it does, you can always pick it up and start over.
So I love that. I love how we can come and grow as people, and we're never going to be perfect, but it's always important for us to know and understand our identity, and that is through Christ. And us as women in a world that attacks us for being women of faith, we must remember that we are always absolute queens, and if we keep our heads aimed towards heaven, and if we start focusing on other things and those crowns will drop, we can pick them back up and remember who we are. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.